What's good, Fight family? Welcome back to the channel. So we're already about 7-8 months through the year. We're past the midway point in the UFC this year, and I was thinking, what better time than now to talk about the top 5 prospects in the UFC to this point. I think we have honestly some of the most prospects I've seen in a long time in the last 2 years. We've got a lot of solid names popping up. Certain fighters almost made the list, but they just didn't because of inactivity. You know, they're not fighting as often as they should be. And then other fighters that, you know, haven't competed even too much this year just because of how good they're doing in the UFC this far, and their performances this year did make the list. So let's talk about my top 5, not technically in no particular order, but I will say the last guy is the guy I think I have the most promising, I have the most trust in to make it far. But let's talk about the first guy on the list, Themba Gorimbo. He's now in the prime of his career at 33 years old. Shout out to those who know, and he's been looking great. You know, he's already fought twice this year. Would have been 3 times, but he had a canceled fight. And even when that fight got canceled, he ends up taking one against Pete Rodriguez. He took one also last year against Takashi Sato, ends up getting a win. And that started his 3-fight win streak that he's on right now. He knocked out Pete Rodriguez, who was supposed to be the striker in their matchup, immediately in the first round in 30 seconds. It was a big moment for that fight night card. And then he came back 3 months later, took on Ramiz Brahimaj and took him to a unanimous decision, just dominated the whole fight. He now has an upcoming bout against Nico Price, I think in, what is it, October? Yeah, I believe October. Let me just double check that. Yeah, he's fighting Nico Price in October this year, and that should be an easy win for him. If he can come right back, if he wins that one, you know, dominantly, doesn't take any damage, if he can come right back and end the year 4-0, he'll actually have like a reason to be in the running for fighter of the year, or, you know, breakout contender of the year, whatever fucking award they're gonna have, because there's so many different types of them. I think this guy could actually make it far at welterweight just due to his build. The fact that he has knockout power, and we now know that, on top of his elite grappling, if he just stays active and if he really chases these difficult matchups and really tries to work his way to the top, I could see this guy making it up there. I mean, realistically, he has 1 loss in the UFC to AJ Fletcher, which I did think was kind of surprising. He lost in the second round by guillotine, but it looks like he's been on like a career resurgence since that point. And even prior to that, he only had a couple other losses. He goes on like big win streaks, loses one, wins another. He never loses 2 back-to-back. I don't think he's going to lose against Nico Price by any means. He is number 5 on the list because I think he's the least promising, but that doesn't by any means, it doesn't mean that I don't think he's going to go far. It just means out of these 5 guys, he's the least impressive to me. But he is still impressive nonetheless. At welterweight, he matches up well against a lot of strikers. I actually think he can make it all the way to like probably around the top 8. That's about where I have a ceiling right this minute. Let's get right into the next fighter though. Midibek Orulbai. This guy's 13-1. He has now 2 wins in the UFC. One came at the very end of the year last year, and I counted him out. And then another one came this year against my last year's 2023 prospect of the year, Elvis Brenner. He just dominated him. You know, Elvis had some solid moments, don't get me wrong, but Midibek just controlled the fight for the most part. And to do it against somebody like Elvis Brenner is extremely impressive. He has 1 loss back when he was 5-0. I'm honestly surprised that he's fucking lost a fight. I think I've watched that fight, and it's like, it's debatable. You could say that he won it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that fight went to a unanimous decision. So you could honestly argue that he's 14-0. He's clearly back a couple updates. He looks like a fucking caveman. He fights like one. He has seemingly the strength of one. I don't know if he has any scheduled bouts yet. I don't see anything scheduled for him, which is upsetting. That's the only reason I can't put him too much higher. I would probably have him the highest out of anybody on this list if he was just more active, but he just seems like one of those guys that's only going to fight once or twice a year, unfortunately. If he really cranks up the intensity, fights 3 times a year, this dude will be fighting for a belt next year, no doubt in my mind. I mean, what weight class is he again? 155? Yeah, no, this guy without a doubt is top 5 caliber, in my opinion. He has some things he needs to work on. He was exposed a little bit against Elvis Brenner. He rushes things a bit, like bro, I'm having a stroke. He rushes things a bit positionally. But other than that, he has good power. He actually has decent striking. He wasn't looking too bad against Brenner, who should have been the better striker. He has good takedown timing. I think he just needs to work on certain things technically and iron some things out. But if he does that, man, this guy's shooting all the way up. I could see him with top 5 potential easily. Then we move on. Marcus McGee in the bantamweight division. This guy is now, what, 3-0 in the UFC. He got a win in 2023, and then he got, another win in 2023 against JP Bays, and then he gets another win this year, the first month of the year, against Gaston Bolanos. I don't know why he's not fighting as much. I don't see any canceled bouts on his record, nothing like that. He has 3 finish wins, all before the third round ever started in the UFC, and that's impressive, hands down, because they're fighting at bantamweight, and you just don't see that too often. This guy reminds me of what Peyton Talbot is now, because Peyton Talbot's fought recently, so he's fresh in our mind. Marcus McGee is that guy for me in general in the bantamweight division, and I actually think they should match up at some point if they can both keep going on an upward trajectory. I think Marcus McGee has, I would say, top 8 potential. I've got to see a little bit more from him to see him like in the top 5 for sure, because bantamweight is so fucking stacked. This guy has ridiculous power, super heavy leg kicks. He's got crazy fast twitch. I haven't seen him really gas out too bad. I haven't seen him take too many shots, so I don't know how good his chin is. There are some variables here. There's some things that we don't really know about him necessarily. But from what I do see, the guy is clearly top 10 caliber without a doubt. The theme of all of these prospects, until we get to the last 2, is that they just need to compete more often and put themselves out there, get them seen by these fans, and I'm sure they'll start getting better matchups. I don't know what the UFC has planned for Marcus McGee, but at this point, 3 finishes, all before the third round. They got to have something good for him. So hopefully we get to see Marcus McGee fight sometime now, because it's getting close to the end of the year, and he's already 34 years old, so he's right out of his physical prime. He needs to get to it. Moving on, Peyton Talbot. I mean, obviously, we got to talk about this kid. He's 9-0. What is he now in the UFC? 3-0 in the UFC, all finishes. 1 came in the third round, really early in the third round. The rest of the finishes, early second round, early first round. The kid's looking phenomenal. I mean, he's 9-0. He's super athletic. He's got a unique personality, unique look to him. Doesn't even seem like he really cares about fighting, which makes it almost kind of more impressive that he's just smoking everybody. Like, I know for his last fight, too, he put out a video to Giannis about how to beat him, and was talking heavily about how you need to use leg kicks. And then when Giannis went for a leg kick, he countered it with the 1-2. Step in, 1-2. Beautiful. Instantly puts him out, wins me money. So, I'm fucking with it. The kid looks solid. I'm sorry. He wants a fight against Adrian Yanez. I think Adrian Yanez accepted that fight on Twitter. The UFC will probably make that matchup, although I think that's dumb. I don't think you should just kill Yanez off already, because he just finally got a win back. Maybe try to build Yanez up a little bit too, because he is potential star caliber in the sport, especially at bantamweight. We need more of those. As stacked as it is skill-wise, it's not as stacked star-wise, and I want that top 15 to be just littered with them, because a lot of the stars at bantamweight are right outside the top 15. I think this kid, obviously the UFC wants to push him, and if you just follow them on social media, you already know that by now. They're going to give him a good matchup stylistically. If it is Yanez, I think he smokes Yanez. And that's crazy for me to say, because Yanez was the guy at bantamweight before Peyton Talbot. But, that's just the nature of the game. Peyton Talbot is just a good prospect, dude. He hits really fucking hard. He goes for finishes. He has good ground game. He does backflips out of kicks. What more do you want to ask from somebody? Hopefully he just keeps fighting, Then we got Gene Silva, dude, the last guy we're going to talk about. 11-fight win streak. Fought at UFC 303, and then comes back 2 weeks later, takes on fucking Drew Dober up a weight class. What more can you ask from somebody like that? And he obliterated Drew Dober's face. He broke his hands and then started using elbows and fucking caught Drew with a spinning elbow twice, dropped him with one of them. Ended up beating him by a doctor stoppage, because Drew has a chin of the gods and fucking heart like no other. But to do that to Drew Dober up a weight class, and this guy's only 27, coming out of the fucking Fighting Nerds, which if you haven't seen my video on that, go check that out. The Fighting Nerds are just the next gym in MMA right now, and they're definitely gym of the year so far. I'll link that down below. Gene Silva is my favorite prospect of the year, dude. Him and his teammate, Mauricio Rufy, and honestly, a couple of his teammates, they're all prospects, but Gene Silva's the standout guy. Sadly, he did break his hand, so we're probably not going to see him until end of the year. If we do, Dana, Hunter, please, this is from me and all the MMA fans collectively that know anything about what the fuck we're watching. Give this guy a top 10 matchup at featherweight. He's that caliber. We already know it. Give him Josh Emmett. I would love to see Gene Silva versus Josh Emmett. You know what? Josh Emmett's coming off of a solid knockout. Best fucking knockout he's ever had of his career. Gene Silva's coming off the best performance of his career. Let's get those two matched up. They both hit like fucking freaks. That fight, oh my God, yeah, no, that fight sells itself. What more do you need to ask? Let's see him take that guy on, and if he can beat somebody like that, we already know he's top 10 caliber. In my heart, I know this guy is like going to make it up there, at least in top 5 contention. There's no way he doesn't unless he just decides to stop fighting or, God forbid, some freak injury happens. Go check out the Fighting Nerds if you don't already know about these guys. Like I said, they're next up. All of them put on exciting performances. But yeah, let me not get ahead of myself anymore. Gene Silva, this is the prospect of the year so far. If he wins 2 more fights, just 2 more, that's 4-0 on the year. He will be definitively fighter of the year, in my opinion. Prospect of the year, maybe even fighter of the year. Maybe not fighter of the year. They always give that to a champion. It'll probably be fucking Pereira again. But he deserves fucking prospect of the year. If he can even get 1 more win that are like his last 2. Or, no, he has 3. He has 3 this year. Did he fight Weston Wilson this year? He did. He's 3-0 on the year. And a Contender Series win. Dude, yeah, he only needs 1 more fucking win on the year. And that's it. Yeah, bro. Enough said. I'll catch y'all.